Hey guys, thanks for the click and welcome back. Today I'm going to be cutting out these cruise refrigerator magnets using the Mira 7. Now these pieces here have two colors, yellow and red, and I'm going to use the Mira 7 to help me paint these colors onto these small pieces very easily. So no more ducking around, let's go ahead and get this project started. Let's go. I bought a bundle of unfinished 1/8 inch thick 12 inch by 20 inch pieces of Baltic birch for a little under $2.80 a sheet. So to get them ready for the project, I sanded the surface and then I applied 2 coats of polyacrylic, sanding in between coats. This polyacrylic coating will serve 2 purposes. It will seal the wood so that when I apply the paint, it will not get sucked into the material. And secondly, when I engrave on the unmasked surface, I will be able to easily remove the engraving residue off the surface. So now that this piece has been prepped, let's go ahead and apply the masking. I now want to get a small piece of 1/8 inch acrylic with a straight edge, and I want to squeegee down hard the masking to the surface. The better the adhesion to the surface will ensure that it not peel up during the paint process. This sheet is now ready to be loaded into the Mira 7. Let's go. I have already locked down a 90-degree L jig that is squared to the laser head in the X and Y direction. Doing this will always align your material. All I have to do is place the material flush on the X axis, then push it flush up against the Y axis. That's it. Doing that each time will align the material to the laser head and, more importantly, to the drawing in Lightburn. Next, I'll do a quick autofocus of the 1/8 inch material. And now I'll set my all-important user origin for this project. Since I set the user origin to the bottom right corner of my sheet, I will move the laser pointer to that position. When I get close, I will slow down the jog speed to move the laser pointer to the corner. When done, I will press the origin button. I have now locked down the coordinates to this position. Now here's a quick tip that I learned the hard way. Now is a good time to write down the X and Y coordinates, because if you accidentally press the origin button on a different position, the laser will now be locked into those new coordinates. But now that I have the original coordinates written down, I can precisely jog the laser head back to these coordinates. And there you go, you're back to your original starting point. I once had to restart a project because I lost my original origin positions. Don't be that guy. Now here's a quick montage of the design build. I couldn't do this in real time because the video would be days long and nobody wants that. I used about every tool in Lightburn to get this design finished. And this is the final design I came up with. And it has the multiple layers that have different responsibilities. So I'll go from here. Okay guys, here's the final design, and it's got a number of layers directly on top of each other. And all of these layers that I created, I have given them special colors, and each color is going to perform a different responsibility during this project. For example, let's go ahead and select all of them at the same time, and if I select preview, you'll notice that if I hit play, that it's going to go ahead and score, it's going to engrave, it's going to go ahead and engrave around the duck. And then finally, it's going to come around and it's going to cut the final shape of the steering wheel of the boat. But that's not what I want it to do. What I want it to do is I want it to do different things at different times because, for example, all these layers right here are stacked on top of each other, and each layer has its own responsibility. Let me go ahead and select this inner black part of the duck, and I'm going to bring it out over here. And that was directly on top of the existing duck. And this is the layer that I'm going to use to score, because I'm going to want to paint this part of the duck yellow. So I want to do this part of the job first. So if I select it and press play, you'll see that it's going to score this area. And that's only because I have everything enabled. And throughout the job, I'm going to be turning on layers and turning off others. But this is just to show you that each color has a different responsibility. So now if I bring out this beak here and slide it over, you'll notice here that if I click the preview button, it shows the beak. And if I hit play, it will just score the beak and the beak alone. Next, I have the green. And if I bring the green out, now this is the whole entire duck. So if I select it and click on preview, you'll see here that this layer is just used to engrave the outside of the duck, and it does a good job of engraving the outside of the duck. Okay, so let's go okay. So now we'll go ahead with Bahamas, and we'll bring Bahamas out over here, select preview, and you'll see here that that responsibility is just to score the name Bahamas. Next, we'll go ahead and bring the wording around the circle, and we'll bring it out here. And if I select preview, you'll see that this layer is responsible for just engraving the words and letters around the steering wheel. Okay, and then finally, I have my steering wheel, and if I click on that and hit play, you'll see that this is going to be the layer that's going to cut everything out around all the scoring and engravings that I did earlier. And of course, that's going to be done last. Okay, so let me go ahead and go back and put everything back together. Zoom in, move it back, and then we'll go to the next step. Okay guys, the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and select the rectangle tool, and I'll be making this rectangle a T2 tool layer with the bottom right corner being the user origin. And I'm going to make a rectangle that's the size of my material that I'm going to be using. And the material I'm going to use is 20 inches wide by 12 inches in height. So let's go ahead and type in 12 inches. So now I have it set for 20 by 12. That's the exact same size. And if you'll notice here, I have the user origin set for the bottom right corner, just like I do at the laser. I set the origin of the laser to be right on the bottom right corner of my material. So they're going to match. So if you notice something real quick, you'll notice that my design size is way bigger than it needs to be. So I need to go ahead and scale that down to the size I want it to be. So I have one here on the other side that I scaled down to about 2 3/4 inches by 2 3/4 inches. So we'll go ahead and place that on the artboard, and we'll get this demo duck and we'll move him out of the way. Okay, so now using the array tool, I'm going to go ahead and stack about 4 of these on top of each other so I can get the maximum amount of designs onto this piece of material. So I'm going to go ahead and do a quick montage of that and get that done. Okay, there you go guys. So I put 32 on that sheet, so we're good to go here. So what I'm going to do next is I'm going to go ahead and turn off all the layers. All my layers are going to be turned off. Okay. So if I select everything and go to preview, it says, hey, you have no layers showing up. What do you want to do? I don't understand you. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to select and turn on the output for just the duck that I want to cut out so that I can color it. So I'm going to go ahead and select everything. And now when I click preview, you'll see that it's just going to score all of my little duckies right there. So, okay, so let me go ahead and send this job to the laser and get this part started. Okay, let's go. Okay, now that this is done, let me take it to the workbench, and I'm going to go ahead and get my X-Acto knife, and I'm going to start to pull off all the masking off of all the little ducks. So now this piece is ready to take to the garage so that I can give it a few super light coats of yellow enamel spray paint. I shake the can vigorously before spraying the paint. I keep a distance of about 12 inches from the material. My goal is to apply a light mist of spray paint onto the ducks. I don't want the paint to puddle and go underneath the masking. So I take my time to apply the light coats, letting it dry and then coming back and doing another coat of spray paint. When done, I set it aside to dry and make sure that it is thoroughly dry before you put it into the laser, okay? Now that this piece is thoroughly dry, let me take it inside and load it onto the laser bed. I'm going to make sure to align this onto the L jig, making sure that I place it onto the X-axis and then slide it flush against the Y-axis. Okay, now it's time to head back to the PC to load the second part of this project. Okay, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and turn off the output to the last job that I just sent, which was the duck. And now I'm going to turn on this next layer, which should be the beak. And so if I select everything here and click on preview, you'll see here that it's the beaks that are going to be, all these beaks are going to be scored. So let's go ahead and just do a quick, yep, all the beaks are going to be scored. So I've ensured that it's the right layer. So now that is turned on, and let's go ahead and send it to the laser. Once the job is started, I can quickly see the beak is being scored and aligned with the previous score job of the duck's body. Any misalignment of the material to the L jig would have caused the pattern to be off a bit. So we are looking really good. Now it's time for me to remove all the masking off the beak. So I grab an X-Acto knife and I start to pull away all the small pieces of masking that are on the beaks. I then get my red paint pen and I start to apply red paint to all the beaks.
Hey guys, if you made it this far through the video, please do me a favor and like and subscribe. I would greatly appreciate it. Thank you. Now let's get back to the video. Let's go.
So now let me remove the masking. It's not needed anymore. And besides, I was getting sick of seeing all that yellow. I hate the color yellow. So anyway, let me get it removed so I can move on to the next step of this project. Now let me take the piece back to the garage to give it one more thin layer of polyacrylic. This layer will be used as a protective layer to the yellow and red paint layers that I applied earlier. So now the paint is less likely to get scratched. I think this is a great idea for the end user. Remember to properly adjust the material to the L jig. This will ensure that the next pattern aligns with the duckies. So now it's time to go back to Lightburn and load the next set of instructions for the Mira 7 to perform. Let's go. Okay guys, I'm back in Lightburn and I'm going to make some modifications to our cut and layers window. I'm going to go ahead and go to output and I'm going to turn off the layer that just scored the beak. So now that is off and I'm going to enable the next three layers. The blue layer, which is going to be engraving of the words and numbers around the steering wheel. And then I'm going to enable the next layer, and that's going to be the word Bahama, and it's going to score Bahama onto the wing of the duck. And then the third thing I'm going to do is I'm going to turn on the output to the next layer, which is the green. And what that is going to do is that's going to engrave all the way around the outline of the duck. So now that I have those three enabled, let me go ahead and select the whole piece here and select the preview window. And this is what I have here. I'm going to enlarge it and let's go ahead and hit the play button to see how it's going to act and see what it's going to do. So let me go ahead and speed this up and you can see that it is engraving all the words and numbers around the steering wheel. And when it finishes with that, it's now going to score the word Bahamas onto the wings of all the ducks. And lastly, it's going to start to engrave the outline of the duck. So it's going to do everything I want it to do. So let me go ahead and close this window and let's go ahead and send it to the laser. Okay, now that the job has been started, I can quickly see that it's engraving exactly where it's supposed to. And I can also notice a little engraving residue on the surface of the wood. But I'm not too worried about that because it can easily be wiped away later with a damp cloth. So let me allow the laser to engrave this first layer of text and numbers. At this point, I pause the job to give it a quick inspection, and with everything looking good, I hit the start button to continue the job. The Mira 7 is now scoring the second layer of this job. It is scoring the name Bahamas using a single line font that I selected in Lightburn. It's looking nice and crisp. This scoring layer should be done quickly. When done, the Mira 7 now starts to engrave the outline of the duck as programmed. Since this is a thicker line, and since I used a higher power setting for this layer, there is more smoke and more engraving residue that is falling onto the surface of the wood. Let me let it finish this duck and I'll take a closer look. And just as predicted, there's a whole lot of charring or engraving residue that is now dirtying the wood surface and, more importantly, making the duck need a bath. The duck is looking filthy, especially on the wing area and beak area. So I'll have to take the duck a bath when this engraved job is finished. And now I remove the material from the laser and I take it to my workbench for a good cleaning. I get a damp microfiber towel and I begin to lightly wipe the residue off the surface. And because of the good hard poly coating that's on the surface, it is wiping clean quite easily. So now I'll wipe down the entire piece, and when done, I'll load it back into the laser bed to perform the last cut. Okay guys, I'm back in Lightburn and I'm going to move over to the cut layers window, and I'm going to go ahead and turn off the output to the last 3 layers that I just enabled on the last job. I'm going to turn off the blue, I'm going to turn off this gray, and I'm going to turn off the green. And now that everything is off, I want to select the red layer, which is 02, and I want to turn the output to on. So now that it's on, let me go ahead and select the entire drawing. I will click the preview button just to ensure that it's doing what I want it to do. And you can see here, once I hit play, this is the layer that's going to do all the cutting of the steering wheel. So things are looking good. So let me close this window and click send to send it to the laser. See you at the laser. Okay guys, this final cut is perfectly aligned and is cutting precisely on target. Also, having an external compressor running while it's cutting makes for a clean, deep cut and eliminates the need for masking and the need to clean the cut residue after the cut, because there's virtually no residue when you use an external compressor. So now that the job is finished, I'll remove the pieces from the laser and take them to my workbench to finish up this project. Let's go. So now it's time to take a close-up look at the final product, and I think they look amazing. The colors pop and the surface is nice and shiny. So I'll finish this project by sticking a magnet on the back side so that someone can remember their cruise by sticking it to their refrigerator door. Well guys, that's pretty much going to wrap up this video. If you enjoyed it or even learned a thing or two, please do me a favor and click the like and subscribe button. That would greatly help out my channel. And if you're considering buying a laser, please consider AEON. Please click on my referral link below and tell them Rico sent you. Well, with that said, let's go ahead and end this video. Until my next video, have a great day and see you soon. Adios.